George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Tracey Conyer Lee is playing at the Syracuse stage, Lady Day at Emerson Bar and Grill. What a great show happening right now. You've got time to get your tickets now through November 5th, including today. You can go today too. And what a great opportunity it is to see a great show, because I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to see it. I had an opportunity to meet Tracey a couple of weeks ago, and what a great show and what a great opportunity to sing the music of Billie Holiday at Syracuse stage. Tracey, good to see you again. And
Great to be here, George. I'm so excited it's you.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. And by the way, Tracey is an actor. She's a director. She's a playwright. She's a corporate coach. The sister's bad. And when you go to her page, you're funny, and she's funny, right? Like, you know, like it seems like you were made for this work. So we'll talk about that. But let's talk about Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill and the music of Billie Holiday, which for you must be an emotional tour de force.
Emotional does not even begin to describe it. It's accurate. So this is not a Billie Holiday concert. It is a play. It is a theatrical event. It is one evening in real time
Mm-hmm.
that takes place about 4 months before her passing. Um, it is based on an actual performance that she gave in Philadelphia in the last year of her life. I know the playwright. I have met him several times. He's come to see several of my performances. This is my seventh time doing this show.
Oh,
um,
okay.
yeah. And so I learned personally from Lainey, this is something you can't learn from reading the script, that the play was based on a story that a friend of his had
Mm.
experienced when he had gone to see his icon, Billie Holiday, and in this small dive in Philly. And I won't go into details, but the experience, what we're doing is not what that performance was,
Mm-hmm.
but the experience of the performance, as Lainey's friend was telling it to him, haunted him. He knew he wanted to write about it, and it took him 10 years to figure out what story he wanted to tell based on what his friend had told him about his experience seeing his icon. And what we got was Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, which has been around since the earliest of the 80s, I do believe, but just came to Broadway for the first time. It was 2016, gave Audra McDonald her sixth Tony Award, I believe. And so you will hear some of her most iconic music and some tunes you may not know as well. And you will learn a lot about her story, what made
Mm.
her who and what she is. She
Died of an overdose, right? And so thinking
didn't die of an overdose.
she didn't. Why do I think that?
I mean, because she was an addict and she died in the hospital.
Okay.
Um, and she was dying of liver failure and she was dying of, her body was succumbing to drugs.
Okay.
She did not pass from an overdose.
Is that so? What I said is what people think, but that's not what happened, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And the story of her passing, which is not in this play because she hadn't passed yet during the time of this play, but the story of her passing is quite tragic, and there's some lore around it, so only she really knows the truth. But what is true is that while she was pursued by the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
And she was pursued by the FBI not because of her drug addiction. Her drug addiction allowed them to continue to arrest her, but she was being pursued because she would not stop singing Strange Fruit.
Yeah. Right. And for people who don't know what Strange Fruit is, right? It's a song about the lynchings that were happening in the South And I mean, thank you for you're gonna sing that song in the show, and I'm sure I don't. What does that do when you? I mean, you first of all, you've been drawn to this role 7 times. What keeps you coming back
Eight.
to
There's an
eight?
eighth already.
Oh, so this is the
Well,
eighth.
no,
This is the eighth.
no, this is the
7 times.
seventh. There's
Oh.
going. I'm already booked for another one.
Okay, there you go. So is it? So is it just a role, or is it something that sings means something? What is it?
Yes, it's a combination of things. Why I chose to do this one is really specific, but why? So there's a story that I'll try to make really brief.
You good?
It's good. It's good.
You
Okay.
good? You good?
I've known about the show for forever. My parents owned a jazz club, and when I was starting to study theater in undergrad, my mom thought, "Oh, I'm going to pay homage to
And
my."
where's hometown, by the way?
I was born in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, near where
Born and
Emerson.
raised.
Not raised. So we moved to Wilmington, Delaware, about 20 minutes outside of.
Okay.
So I was raised in Wilmington, and my parents, they bought this jazz club because they wanted to offer the local Wilmington community an opportunity to see real jazz without having to go into Philly.
Okay.
Nancy Wilson, shoot, I can't think of anybody right now. Branford Marcellus, Phyllis Hyman, great legendary performers. When I was a teenager growing up and into my adulthood, performed at this club. Anyway, so one summer my mother decided I'm gonna try a summer of dinner theater.
Right.
And there was a Philadelphia theatrical company called Freedom Theater that did black work, and so she did I think a 3-play season. Lost her shirt. That was the first and last time she did that.
Okay.
She didn't know how to produce theater, but one of the shows they did was Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill with a Philadelphia writer. So I've known about the show since I was a kid. And once I got involved in this career, I never thought I would do this play because people are often looking for someone who looks and sounds like Billie Holiday. I do. And but in 2014 or so, there was an audition for a theater where I'd never been. I didn't know them there. And, my manager said, "What the heck? Go in, introduce yourself to this theater." And so I gathered the material, started doing research, and I thought I knew her story, just like what you thought you knew, right?
Right.
But digging into her life, I was really fascinated by the story. There's all kinds of documentaries and things, and I just got really caught up in her story. The writing of the play was excellent, and that's not often the case for, solo shows, that they're not always well written like a play, and this really was. So I was getting the acting part of it together, and I felt really good about it. But the theater was requesting artists who look and sound like Billie Holiday. So I knew a lot of the songs, grew up with jazz. So I picked the 2 songs I was going to sing, and I'm trying my best. My voice is nothing like Billie Holiday.
Right.
I'm trying my best to make some Billie sounds, and it is not happening.
Right.
And I didn't, because not everybody asks for that, but because this theater really did specifically, I thought I need to do that. And I kept working and it came the day of my afternoon audition, and I still didn't have it. So I called my manager and said, "I don't think I'm gonna go." I
Right.
shouldn't go.
Right.
And he said, "Get over yourself," because he is a great manager. He just came this past weekend to see the show. "Get over yourself. It is an audition. You have all the time in the world to learn that sound. Go." So I said, I was frustrated, and I went early and booked a little studio to continue practicing. And I thought, if I can't sing like her, I watched videos, and I said, let me find a physicality that helps bring her into the room. So I found something great. At least I'll go in with that. They'll think I'm a good actor. They're not going to cast me in this play, but maybe I'll work with them in the future. That's what auditions are. And so I went in and I asked, could I please do the acting parts first? Because I knew they'd be strong. And so I went and did those, and it went very well. And they were like, great. Why don't you sing for us? And I thought, okay, here we go. So the pianist plays the intro for the first song, and I do my little physical thing that I'm going to do. And I open my mouth to sing, and this sound that I had never made before came out of my mouth.
Really?
And I know I saw their eyes get big and my eyes got big, but they're like, get yourself together, Tracey. Keep going, keep going. So I sang the song, and I'm not gonna say I sounded like Billie Holiday, but I sounded more like her than I ever had. And again, I grew up with jazz and her sound. So I was able to affect something that
in
really
that moment that you never
yes.
expected.
And yes, and all the practicing I had done, it did not happen. So anyway, I was like, okay, great. Okay, I hope they don't ask me to do nothing else. I don't want to ruin what just happened here. And they were like, that was wonderful. Could you do another one? Okay, I'm about to blow it now. So he starts the intro to the second song, and I'm thinking, ugh, and it happens again, George.
That song comes, that sound.
And I was like, I didn't know how it happened, but I was glad it happened. And I said, I just hope I get a call back, which is the second audition. They weed people out and then they bring in people they're most interested in. And I got a call back, and this isn't always normal, but it wasn't for another week. It wasn't like the next day or two. It was, so my manager said, great, you have a whole week to practice, to figure out what happened and make that happen again. I practiced all week.
And nothing happened.
No, could not do it. So now I really don't want to go back, because you don't want to make a good impression and then a bad impression. I'd rather leave them wanting more and just like, I'm not available. But he said, no, you have to go. So I went back, acted first, and sang again, and it happened again. So that long story, not short, because it's already long, I got the job. And I can only attribute, and then I had months before the job started to just
affect it and do it.
Well, I was doing a different play. I was doing a play, not a musical, up somewhere, and I spent that whole rehearsal process just listening to her all morning, at night, so that somehow things did start seeping into to how I sing that music. But at that time, I can only attribute it to, and I felt like she came and she sat on my shoulder, and like, I know how much you care about this story and that you're going to tell it with integrity. So I'm going to give you the tools to get the job. That's how I feel. And so after doing that first production, where it took the whole time for me to get comfortable vocally. I was working with an incredible music director for that, so that helped a bunch. And then people just started asking me to do it. So this production here in Syracuse is the first time since 2015 that I have auditioned for one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I've had, in the 6 productions, I've had 3 different directors, 3 or 4 different music directors, who is also my counterpart. He plays on stage with me as a little bit of an acting role to do. You met him. Gary Mitchell Jr. is Jimmy Powers, my pianist. The character's name is Jimmy Powers. But I had never worked with Jade King Carroll, this director. But I have known the Black theater world is not huge. I've known of her, and I thought, oh, wow, she's directing Lady Day. And I worked at Syracuse exactly 20 years ago for their 30th anniversary. It is now their 50th. I did a play here about Ida B. Wells called Constant Star 20 years ago. And
I saw it.
Yes. And we had that discussion. So I thought, I'm gonna audition. And it was so wonderful being in the room with Jade. So that's why I'm doing it here. It was so wonderful being in the audition room with her. You know, she was offering direction, and it was unlike ways I've played it before. It's not ever been exactly the same each time because I'm different. The world is different.
Mm-hmm.
How the play speaks to the world is different depending on what's going on in the world. My directors are different. So it's not always the same, but it's always been more similar. Each of the 6 productions more similar to each other than this one. This is the most different it has ever been. It's so different for me. Exact same words, exact same songs, but a very different journey that I'm taking. And so that was very exciting to have the opportunity to look at this from a very different direction.
Tracey Conyer Lee playing a Lady Day at the Emerson's Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill now through November 5th at Syracuse Stage, including performance today. So today would be Sunday by the time people hear you and see you. So are there 2 performances today or 1?
2. We have matinees and evening shows on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
2 and 7:30.
2 o'clock and 7:30. So listen, after you hear this interview and you run out, and you can either catch the matinee or you can go to the 7:30 show. You can just go ahead and do that. But
not the closing Sunday. The closing Sunday is only a matinee.
Only a matinee on the closing Sunday, which is November the 5th. So, Tracey, as I was listening to you and I was thinking about, so I wondered so you have it now, you've done it 7 times before, or 6 times before, 7th, and now an 8th time. And I'm wondering, you said that the world is different. And as an actor, playwright, right, and director, I wonder how that affects how you come to the role. Because I never thought about it that way, with how environmentally that affects how an actor sees themselves in a particular role. I'm really, maybe this is like nerdy and geeky, but I'm really interested in that.
No, okay. What's funny is I'm going to explain it very specifically from this show, briefly, but I'm going to say, so in my free time, I'm watching Hulu on my off day, and I'm watching a series called Only Murders in the Building, and Meryl Streep is on it, and she's playing an actor. And just while I was in rehearsals, because I talked about it in rehearsals, because this was the experience I was having. On one episode, she says, an actor can say the same line, or the same lines, the same words, the same play. A different actor will say it a different way, 1,000 different ways. One line can have 1,000 different interpretations, and it will create a different point of view into the story. That wasn't the exact quote, but that was the meaning of it. And this process was really exemplified that. I know that, like, the easy thing for directors that have to direct me is I'm less conscious about, I got to go home and learn these lines. I mean, I have to brush up always, but I know them. And also I really understand the text. I've lived with it so much. I really understand it. But that doesn't mean the way that I've been interpreting this line, this moment, this song, this whole section is the only way to interpret it. So each production, there's none that's better or worse than the other, but this is the most different for me.
Did you look at Diana Ross in Lady Sings the Blues at all?
I had seen it as a kid before I really knew who Billie Holiday was.
Yeah. Did that influence at all any way you interpreted?
No. No, and I haven't, and I didn't use it for any sort of research or this. I didn't even use Audra McDonald, who is a genius.
Yeah, right.
And won the Tony for this role, because it's funny. I had a conversation with a musical director in a rehearsal process who hadn't been listening to Billie, but had been listening to Audra, and I had to say, I'm not playing Audra playing Billy. I'm
Right.
playing Billy. That's
Right. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to study how Audra did it because that's how Audra does it.
Yeah.
And that I can't do what she does. I
Yeah.
can do what I do. So I'm not going to study how other people play Billie Holiday. I'm going to study Billie Holiday and bring what I can to Billie Holiday.
So when you're finished with the run of this role, do you go right into the next thing, or do you need a minute?
I leave, so I live, I live outside New York City, and I will be bypassing when I exit here on Sunday night. I will be bypassing my home and going down to the DC area to do some of my corporate training for a week. And then I'm going to a wedding that weekend, and then I go back into rehearsals on that Monday
There you
for a
go.
new production with a new director and new music director.
Let's talk about Tracey, because you got your hands in some various different pots, right? In addition to being an actor, playwright, and director, and you direct other people, you direct yourself, you playwright, you got your own stuff. You use your coach. Tell me about that part of your life, and that you're obviously using acting as part of that, right? Like you're using your full self, and you're funny too, right? Your website, the way you have it set up. I should read people what your website says.
I'm glad you appreciate it, George Kilpatrick.
Yes, yes. So she says, as the only child of the first Black family, replete with a facade of the Cosby Show and a reality more similar to Breaking Vegas meets Breaking Bad, but Black, to move into our charming, colorless Delaware suburb, my fascination with human relationship dynamics and cultural identity developed early. It's the foundation upon which I write and seek to inform my acting work, exploring how people function and thrive despite the absence of a tied in the neat little bow reality. You are so cute with that.
I mean, it's the truth. That quote has been on my website since I've had a website, and it has never changed because it is, I update and change things and blah blah blah. But that will always be true. All of the work that I do is informed by being the only Black kid at the time. We got a couple little chips in the cookie as the year passed, but we were the first Black family in my neighborhood in the decade, and
Uh-huh.
I write. I don't write about. I have written about that,
Right.
but I write from the perspective of everything that I am. All my Blackness, all my femaleness, all my suburban upbringing turned into I went to school kind of in the country, and then moved to New York City and have been there for 30 years. So I write the life I've lived.
Yeah.
I act the life I've lived.
You and it's interesting because even as a Black family in a predominantly white suburb, it's still a Black experience. And it's funny because a lot of times people want to not authenticate your experience as yours, like because you didn't grow up in Philly or West Philly, like you,
I grew
right?
up in a Black household,
There
George.
you go, right,
I
right.
grew up in a Black household.
Black to Black, even
My
though,
household was not whitewashed. My neighborhood was, but my household was not.
right, right. And how often have you had to explain that?
Oh, I don't explain it.
Oh,
You
you
get
don't?
no.
Okay.
I am who I
I
am.
see you. See, I saw that. He's like, no, you. But I mean, there's some. I'm sure you've been challenged. You may not have experienced.
Absolutely. Have I felt the need to in my younger days? Surely.
Yeah.
Surely. These days it just lives on my website and you can from it what you will. And if hearing that I grew up in a colorless suburb tells you something about my Blackness and who I am, go ahead and assume things.
so
That's
so, but so what do you do with the corporate world, and how do you use the acting to inform the training you do?
So this is not my company. I work for a company.
Yeah.
that is started. The founder and CEO is an actor who had left New York and went back home to Massachusetts, and she runs the company from there. And we are national and actually international at this point. Her entire training staff are all entertainment professionals. And a lot of people think the reason, like, there's corporate training all over the place, there are all kinds of companies that come in and teach you how to have good presence and all that. But we use theatrical techniques behind all of our work. All of our curriculum that has been built is based on theater techniques. And the reason a lot of people, when we ask, why do you think she hires all artists? Oh, because you love being on stage, you love being in front of an audience, and that's not the case for everyone. It's actually not the case for me. But the thing that we all have in common is that we spend our educational lives and our professional lives training how to practice. We rehearse. That's what we do when we go to a job. We know how to do it. You don't just show up and say the word. There's a process to going from page to stage. And we know what that process is, and we continually perfect it for our entire careers. Like Meryl Streep, Jamie Foxx, Robert De Niro, they still they might not audition anymore. They might just but when they get on set or on stage, they have to rehearse, and they know how to do it to their best effect and best effect. And that's our skill. And so we don't teach corporate America how to be actors, but we teach them how to get out of their own way and little tools that we use so that you know how to effectively practice when you lead a team. And we do things like emotional intelligence in the workplace, storytelling for business, which is my favorite teaching, is my forte. My master's is in playwriting and screenwriting. So I love teaching somebody that works for IBM how to put, when they have a presentation about new technology that's all data driven and 45 minutes long, I love teaching them how to use a really effective 2-minute personal story to bring all that data together and personalize it so that the people having to listen to all that data get inspired and make a real connection with the material.
All right, Tracey, this is great. Let me ask you this. What is your word of inspiration for this audience as they prepare themselves to see you as Lady Day at the Emerson's Bar and Grill at Syracuse Stage now through November the 5th? And today you can go at 2 and 7:30. All right, so we got that out. And then, of course, the last performance is next Sunday, which will be at 2 o'clock. So 8 shows a week. Let's go. What's your word of inspiration for people today?
Truth. Come get some truth, y'all.
There you go. Let's go. Tracey Conyer Lee, Syracuse Stage, syracusestage.org. Call them at 315-443-3275. Holler at them. Go see this play. See this sister turn up in a way that you will not ever forget. And I think I asked you before, how do you feel afterwards? And I'm sure you have a process to deal with that as well.
Indeed. It's exhausting and not like I'm on a treadmill, but like I'm on an emotional roller coaster, because it is one.
You certainly do. All right, listen, Tracey, looking forward. I love having this talk with you. Just like when we were,
George, you're my favorite.
That's just like we were chilling over at the spot. Anyway, go see Tracey Conyer Lee at the Syracuse Stage now through November the 5th. Lady Day at the Emerson's Bar. Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. Check her out. It should be a great performance. And we appreciate you stopping by. Inspiration for the Nation.
So much.